Hi, my name is Rosa, and I want to tell you a story that has been whispered through the shadows of our town for decades. It's a story my friend's mom told me, and it all began in the 1980s. This tale is about the mysterious and terrifying white vampire. In our small town, there was a wall that divided the slums from the cemetery. The wall was old and crumbling, covered in ivy and moss. It stood as a silent guardian between the living and the dead. People always said strange things happened near that wall, but none of us really believed it until the white vampire came. She had a face that could make the moon weep with envy. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, and her eyes were a deep, crimson red, like twin rubies glowing in the dark. Her long, black hair shone like polished obsidian, flowing down her back in waves. She wore a dress as white as fresh snow, making her seem almost angelic, but we knew better. Her fangs were sharp and glistened whenever she smiled, a smile that sent shivers down your spine. It was a chilly autumn night in 1983 when Mrs. Jenkins, our neighbor, first encountered the white vampire. She lived on the edge of the slums, her house just a stone's throw away from the wall. That night, as she was preparing for bed, she heard a soft tap on her window. Curious, she pulled back the curtain and screamed. There, standing on the wall, was the white vampire. Her red eyes glowed in the darkness, and her fangs gleamed in the moonlight. Mrs. Jenkins froze in terror, unable to look away. The vampire crouched, ready to leap through the window, but something stopped her. Mrs. Jenkins' scream had alerted her neighbors. Lights flickered on in the surrounding houses, and people started to gather outside. Someone shouted, and the white vampire hissed, her eyes flashing with anger. She leaped from the wall and disappeared into the night, leaving only a chilling memory behind. The town was in an uproar. People talked of organizing hunts, of finding and punishing the creature that haunted their nights. But the white vampire was clever. She never stayed in one place for long, always slipping away just as they thought they had her cornered. Mrs. Jenkins wasn't the only one to see her. Stories began to spread of the white vampire lurking outside windows, tapping softly on the glass, her red eyes glowing in the dark. People were scared to leave their homes at night, afraid that they might be her next victim. One night, young Tommy, who lived 2 houses down from Mrs. Jenkins, had a close encounter with the white vampire. He was in his room, playing with his toys, when he heard the tap on his window. Thinking it was a tree branch, he ignored it at first. But the tapping grew louder, more insistent. Finally, he looked up and saw her. The vampire stood on the wall, her eyes locked onto his. She smiled, showing her sharp fangs. Tommy screamed and ran to his parents' room, but when they came back, the white vampire was gone. All that remained were faint scratches on the window and the chilling memory of those red eyes. The stories continued to spread, each more terrifying than the last. People said she could fly, that she could turn into mist and slip through the tiniest cracks. Some even claimed to have found the remains of her victims, drained of blood and left pale as death. Despite the terror she caused, no one could ever catch her. The white vampire remained a mystery, a ghostly figure that haunted our town's nights. To this day, there is no confirmation of her existence. Some say she's just a legend, a tale told to scare children. But those of us who have heard the stories, who have seen the fear in Mrs. Jenkins' eyes, know better. And so, the legend of the white vampire lives on, a chilling reminder of the unknown horrors that lurk in the shadows, waiting for the night to fall.